Hi, it's Mark Bossert from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here today with Chuck Prenevost. Chuck is a franchising consultant expert in Western Canada, and we're going to be talking about franchising. How are you doing today, Chuck?
I'm doing excellent, Mark. Thank you.
So, how can a franchise expert help me, and then who are the people that you help?
Sure. Well, franchise experts such as myself, we enjoy helping people that are looking to typically redefine their career. So they've been, uh, maybe they're in a position or a role in the corporate world they're not happy with, or uh, oftentimes they get packaged out of the corporate world and they're now looking to reinvent their next career. So what we do at FranNet is we help those people that are in that transition look for another option to their career, and that oftentimes can be business ownership. And a lot of our clients that we work with are attracted to franchising because there are some really strong systems and processes in place that they would be buying into. So in other words, they don't have to reinvent the wheel and start a business from scratch, which I have done myself a couple of times. And reinventing the wheel is a challenge sometimes. It takes time and money to do that. So our process really just gets very focused on options for those people that are going through that career transition. And we really, sit down and have a lot of, I guess I would say, some really just candid conversations up front. I'm sure, Mark, you would agree that not everybody should be a business owner. Some people should, frankly, stay in the corporate world. And but what we do is we really ask them really candid questions and really try to understand their goals, their long-term challenges, and looking for fulfillment in their next career. And that's kind of where we really focus on.
So that kind of leads to, who are the folks you have the most success with?
Well, it comes in very different forms. I would say there's those two categories that most people are going to fall into. One is which I've touched on. They're in a position or a role that they're not happy with, so they're looking. Or they've been packaged out and they are actively looking because they have a mortgage payment and kids to support and whatnot. So the people that really seem to gravitate towards our FranNet research process are those ones that are more in career transition. They tend to be, not always, but they tend to be 40 years old or plus in age. They've got some good corporate skills. And what we look for in that corporate skills are what I call transferable skills. What can we leverage from your previous careers into a new business model? So that's really what we look for from the skill set. The money side, of course, is always a big part of the conversation. So we talk about investment levels and net worths and really try to understand if A, it's affordable for you. And we oftentimes will say, do you have 8 to 12 months of savings set aside to cover your household expenses while the business ramps up? Because usually what happens if there's not enough money set aside for those kind of household expenses, the business starts getting squeezed and marketing dollars aren't spent, and then the business stumbles and it gets into that slippery slope.
So since we're talking about franchising and it's, you've defined you've got built-in processes, what sort of process do you guys use to make that fit that of proper business and the right person?
Our process is really designed, well, first of all, I think I would say is we're not selling franchises. Our role really is to be that matchmaker, if I can say it that way. We introduce businesses to people that have a very specific skill set. So in other words, we have about 70 different franchise companies that we represent, and our role is to help our clients define what their goals are, money, career, personal and business goals, and build a business model I call it their ideal business model. And what we do with that business model is we kind of poke holes in it a little bit, have some fun with it, of course, but we poke holes in it to make sure it truly is that that ideal business model for that person. And then out of those 70 different franchise companies that we represent, I'm only going to introduce them to two, three, maybe four, but that's it. And those are the ones that are the best match or they align the best with that business model. So I like to say, forget what the business does for a moment. Let's look at how well it matches your ideal business model. Because if there's a strong match there, chances are you're going to be quite successful in that business, regardless of what it does. So that's the matching process we do. The fun part for me, or where I get the most enjoyment and fulfillment out of what I do, is once we introduce those franchise companies to the client, those three or four, I get to coach the person through all aspects of the research. So we have weekly calls. We're asking, sometimes some tough questions, sometimes just having some fun with it. But essentially, those weekly calls are coaching calls, and we make sure that our clients are getting all of the facts. So at the end of our typically 60 to 90-day research process, our clients are really well informed. They understand how to drive top-line revenues of that particular business. They know if they're going to the bank, they know how much to ask for in financing. Business plans will be developed. And they're really getting the facts. So they're going to make a very strong, well-informed decision about the business. Another way I like to say it is we take the emotion out of it and get the facts, and only at the end will we bring the emotion back into it. And that's typically the gut check. Can I see myself in this business?
Awesome. I guess that you actually answered my fourth question, so I think that wraps it up, actually. I don't know what else to say. Would you like to close with anything else?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps a couple of thoughts, Mark. When clients that come to me that have recently been packaged out of the corporate world, our statistics say typically 20% of our clients will be female, 80% will be male. So if you've been packaged out of the corporate world recently, let's say within the last 2 or 3 months, I'll be the first to admit the male ego is a fragile thing, right? Take some time off. Really think about, okay, I just got kicked to the curb. How can I reinvent myself? I call it, you need time to decompress. So that's one of the first steps I always recommend to any potential clients is, when did it happen? When did you get packaged out? And how have those conversations been going with your spouse? And then once they get through that little bit of the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster, they typically are in a better position to focus. So that's an area that I think is important to bring out at this point. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Chuck. We've been talking with Chuck Prenevost. He's a franchise expert with FranNet. He deals with people in Western Canada who are looking to make a career change or get into a new business for themselves. You can reach Chuck at 1-604-849-0278. That's 1-604-849-0278. Thanks a lot, Chuck.
Thank you very much, Mark.